Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Na Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara to the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara to the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 15th day of May 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text number 25 on the bottom of page 336. Naham prakasha sarvasya Naham prakashak sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudho Ayam Nabhijanati Mudho Yang Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Naham Prakashak Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudho Yang Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Naham Prakashak Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudho Yang Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Naham Prakashak Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudho Yang Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Naham Prakashak Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudho Yang Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. Anyone online?
Naham Prakasho Sarvasya
Naham Prakashak Sarvasya
Yoga Maya Samavritaha
Yoga Maya Samavritaha
Mudho Ayam Nabhijanati
Mudho Yang Nabhijanati
Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam
Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. Na nor aham I prakashaha manifest sarvasya to everyone, yoga maya by internal potency, samavritaha covered, mudhaha foolish, ayam these, na not, abhijanati can understand, lokaha persons, mam me, ajam unborn, abhyayam inexhaustible. Translation. Lord Krishna says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and inexhaustible. Purport. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, then how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of the Kurus, when Śiśupāla spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhīṣma supported Krishna and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pāṇḍavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. In the prayers of Queen Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in the Śiśupāla. This Yogamaya curtain is confirmed in the Śiśupāla, mantra 15, in which the devotee prays, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam pushan apavranu satyadharmaya drishteye. Time out. Can you get the heat? You can turn it off. Thank you, brother. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchidananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. Close quote. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge, is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.7, there is this prayer by Lord Brahma. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world, or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn, but also abhyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. Okay, I'm going to do it. You want to look, see what I did? You'll know forever. Well, all right, sorry for the delay. Hare Krishna. Now I forgot if I said the prayer. Anyway. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is another famous verse. Krishna is speaking here in text 24 and 25 about those who don't know him or assume Avyaktam vyaktam. This is an important phrase in the text 24. There are these impersonalists who think that the impersonal Brahmajyoti is the supreme, and that Brahmajyoti appears in this world in the form of Krishna. You see, and then when Krishna goes back, everything merges. The supreme is the ultimate reality, is this, the impersonal absolute. That's what this means. The avyakta, the invisible, the non-manifested, becomes visible or personality achieved. This is a mistake. They think those who are abuddhiya, less intelligent persons, they don't understand my supreme higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. In other words, the personal form, the personality of Godhead is supreme, And his effulgence is the Brahmajyoti. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadandakoti is explained in the Brahma Samhita, that Yasya prabha is the effulgence. His effulgence, that Govinda's effulgence, is ultimately to the Brahmajyoti. And that's also confirmed, as Prabhupada says, in this verse from the Śiśupāla. Hiranmayena patrena. Hiranmayena. Hiranya, you remember what Hiranya means? Gold. So Hiranmayena is this golden effulgence. Patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham. It's covering your beautiful face. You see, please withdraw that personal effulgence so I can see. Pushana pavanu satyadharmaya drishtaya. I can actually see the truth of you, which is the personality of God, the beautiful face. That's what this Śiśupāla. Of all the Upanishads, Prabhupada chose to translate the Śiśupāla. It's right in the name, Isha. It's about the Isha. It's about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's why the very first mantra, not the invocation, but the mantra is Isha Vasamidam Sarvam Nitkintijigatyam Nigat. That everything in this world is controlled. Isha means controlled and owned by the Supreme Lord. We're entitled to take what we need for maintenance, but we should understand that everything belongs to the Lord. That's the first thing. And this one also was there. This is mantra 15 near the end, where the devotee is praying to, I want to see your actual form, not just the bright light. So Krishna is covered. Again, this is how can we know him? Because we're not qualified to practice Ashtanga Yoga. Even Arjuna gave it up. Prabhupada uses that argument. Who are we compared to Arjuna? He's a personal associate of Krishna. He lived in Dwapara Yuga when people lived for 1,000 years. He was highly qualified, but he rejected it. He says, it's too difficult for me. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balabhadraham. The mind is so powerful and restless, it's like trying to control the wind. So he says, it's not for me. So ultimately, Krishna says, you don't have to practice it. And he's also speaking to us. It's not necessary. And so now, he says, at the end of the 6th chapter, he says, Yoginam abhisarva. We have to become yogis. He says, you have to become a yogi, Arjuna. But we don't have to become Ashtanga yogis. We can become bhakti yogis. So what's the difference? The highest yoga, or highest yogi, is one, Yoginam abhisarva shamagaten antaratmana, who's always thinking of me within his heart. Antaratmana, who is full of faith. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. That key word bhajan, which is the root of the word bhakti, means who is fixed in performing devotional service to me of all varieties and enjoying a rasa, a relationship with me of love eternally. That's the highest yoga. And then in next verse, he said, now listen to me. I'm going to tell you how you can have your mind attached to me. You can think in a certain way, act in a certain way, that you'll become more and more attached to my personality. And he begins by saying, just here, tat shrinu. Prabhupada picks up on that word shrinu, you see? And he quotes this section from the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, where there's verse 7 to 21 of the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, describes the essence of real Dharma. It's a very important lesson. We made a book out of it, which is drawn on the verses and the purports, and lectures Prabhupada gave in all of those chapters. We gleaned, we wove it together to make it. And so, what is Krishna? What's going on in that section? Well, there is Sutta Goswami. He's going to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam, having heard it at the first speaking when Shukadev spoke to Pariksit, for 7 days in a great assembly on the banks of the river Ganges near what's present-day Delhi, or there's an Indraprastha then. So Pariksit knew he was going to have to leave his body, right? Well, he was going to be killed by the curse of the Brahmin boy, the snake bird. So he didn't panic. He didn't build a big fortress to try to protect himself. So, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. He gave up his kingdom, gave up everything, took sannyas, sat down by the Ganges, the holy river, and he was such a great personality, so many people came, and Shukadev Goswami arrived and spoke the Bhagavatam for the first time. He had heard it from his father, Vyasadeva, who taught it to him. Suta Goswami was in that gathering, and he heard it, and you know, they had these incredible brains. Once he heard it once, and he could then repeat it. Who can imagine? 18,000 verses, right? Now, anyway, I'm not going to get into detail. I remember when I worked on the Bhagavatam to finish it with Prabhupada, with the wonderful godbrother Gopi Pranadana Prabhu and Mridhananda Das Goswami. And when we finally finished it, and it got circulated in ISKCON, we got these messages from devotees. They were very disturbed because they had heard many times Prabhupada say that there's 18,000 verses there. And when you add them all up in the chapters, you can see the quotas. There was a lot less than 18,000. What happened? Where was the missing verses? You know, they were panicking. So Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, who is a great Sanskrit scholar, he explained to me, it's not verses, but granthas, a grantha. Now what is a grantha? A grantha is, Hare Krishna. A grantha is a verse the size of a standard Bhagavad Gita verse. Like we just had this verse 25, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya. If you count it, you'll see there's 32 syllables there. There's 2 lines. There's certain rules for how you do the meter. But it's a standard size verse. It's the same size as the Hare Krishna mantra. There's also 32 syllables, right? So that's a grantha. This unit of 32 syllables is a grantha. And you'll find, you may recall, if we go to the 6th canto and especially the 5th canto, you'll find a lot of verses that aren't even verses. They're prose passages. Like in the 5th canto, forget the number of the chapter, but there's a chapter there, the residents of Jambudvip offer prayers. And one of those residents is Prahlāda. And he's offering prayers to, guess who? Nrsimhadev. And one of those prayers, at the end of the purport, I'm working on the manuscript, because I also worked as an original editor on some chapters in 1975. In the 80s, I went to Miami and we finished the book. But, so I'm working on this, and there's this prayer, and it's a prayer to Nrsimhadev. And at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, because one of Nrsimhadev's blessings is that he'll help, welcome, please, come in. Hare Krishna. Yeah, if you like to offer your basin, but if you like to sit, you can sit on this side. This is the ladies' side over here. Oh, we have to put down some more. We have a big crowd. The men can sit here, and the ladies will sit over there. You can sit there if you want. Here or there. Yeah, we're okay. Thank you all for coming. Is it a special event? You're all coming here? Someone's birthday? Please. We have some more books. We have some more stands. Usually we only have a half dozen people, but now, so you're welcome. Please have a seat. Yeah. With new people here, maybe we'll turn the heat on again. Is it too cold? You okay? Okay. Of course, we help heat up the room if you have enough people, like that. Okay, we have more books coming. And we're in chapter 7, discussing text 25, which begins on page 336. So I was just discussing a point about the Shastra, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, which is known to have 18,000 verses. But it's not really verses. It's called granthas, which are 32 syllable units. Like you find most of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita, these short ones like here, they have 32 syllables. You know what I mean? And so that's a grantha. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find some verses, some numbered, that aren't actually verses. They're prose passages. And one of those is a prayer by Lord Prahlāda Maharaj to the Lord Nrsimhadev. You know who Prahlāda is? You heard of him? And he's a great devotee who became a devotee even in the womb. Narada Muni, who travels throughout the universe, he always gives just what we need in order to become Krishna conscious. He made a hunter into a devotee, and he taught Prahlāda while he was still in the womb. So when he came out, his father was a great demon. He didn't know he was a devotee. And he raised him up, and he said, who is this? How did you learn this? You know, because anyway, we're right in the morning. We're studying that. So one of the prayers now, Prahlad Maharaj in the 5th canto, there's a series of prayers by Prahlad Maharaj, and one of them is this long prose passage, and at the end of that purport, Prabhupada writes the explanation commentary. He says, anyone who wants to be free from material desire and simply desire Krishna should offer prayers to Nrsingadev as Prahlad Maharaj does here in this verse. So I was working on that. I've been an editor. I've been doing this for 51 years. And in 1975, there was a big marathon of Prabhupada wasn't satisfied. The books he was printing, he was working so hard. I don't know if you read any of his life story, but he got up in the middle of the night, you know, because there's so much busy. He's traveling and he's trying to manage the, you know, burgeoning, increasing institution that's growing all over the world. So the best time for him to write was the quiet hours at 12 at night. He would go to bed maybe 10, get up at 12, and, you know, it was quiet. And he had a dictaphone. It's quicker than just trying to type it out, you know, which he did. So he's dictating these, and we would have to transcribe them. And so I had that transcription, and then I was editing it. So I'm working on it. I said, oh, we should memorize this. So even in manuscript form, I memorized this. So I can share it with you. It's beautiful. Even though it's prose, Sanskrit's so beautiful, it has a certain lilting rhythm to it. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avadavir Bhavavaddanakavaddanshtakarma Shayan Randaya Randayatamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Kṛṣṇa. Now that word Kṛṣṇa is Lord Nrsingadev's special syllable. If you're worshipping Nrsingadev, you may have a deity, then it's like, before the mantras you chant that syllable. I don't know if you have seen that. So what it says is, Om Namo Bhagavate, I offer my humble obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that form, half man, half lion, very ferocious. Now they're saying, Namaste Jase, all obeisances unto you who are full of such power. Not just Namaste, just say Avadavir Bhava. Please appear in my heart. Now, whenever you see repetition in Sanskrit, you know, of course it means emphasis. So there's a lot of repetition. Avadavir Bhava Vardhanaka Vardhadang Sakarma Shayan. So please take your thunderbolt-like teeth and your thunderbolt-like nails and rip apart all remaining material desires in my heart. Free me from material desires. You see? Randaya tamo grasa grasa, and dissipate the darkness in my heart, darkness of ignorance. Om swaha, the swaha I offer oblations, you know. Abhayam, abhayam. Please give me fearlessness. Please give me fearlessness in this difficult world. Abhayam, abhayam, atmani, remain in my heart. Bhuishta, om kṛṣṇa, I offer my obeisances. So I memorized that in 1975. How many years is that? You're very smart. You're intelligent. 45. That's 75, that's 25 plus 24, 49 years ago. I still remember it. We can chant it every day. So, what Krishna is saying here, back to the text, Naham prakasha sarvasya, I am not visible to all, I am hidden by my internal energy. Even when Krishna was present on the planet 5,000 years ago, spoke the Bhagavad Gita, only a handful really understood him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some took him to be, he's just a coward boy. What is he doing fighting this wrestling? And so, you know, they just misunderstood, right? He's all powerful, you know. Even though he looked very delicate, he could kill these demons. So that's what he's saying. The yoga maya, I am covered by my internal potency, and the fools do not understand me, who am unborn and inexhaustible. So the question becomes, well, how can we know Krishna? And the answer is by devotion. In the 18th chapter, very often quoted verse, how can we know God? You know, we believe in God, but we can't see Him. We don't know what He looks like. So he says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. That by bhakti alone, by loving devotional service, Krishna agrees to reveal Himself proportionate to our devotion. See? And if one can understand me in truth by this sustained devotion, then he can enter the kingdom of God at the end of life, you see. So the real yoga is ultimately bhakti yoga. It means linking to the Supreme through this process of loving devotion, centered on the chanting of the holy name and the whole process that's been given to us. So that's what we're studying. And Krishna is saying, well, these fools, the mudhas, they cannot understand who I really am. And they think, as he said in the previous verse 24, that this bright light, Brahma Jyoti, has appeared in human form. But actually that bright light is the effulgence emanating from Krishna's body in the spiritual world. We learn from the Brahma Samhita. Do you know who Brahma is? Brahma is like the original creator. Yeah. So he wrote this book, after meditating for a long time. And he wrote a book about Krishna. The famous Govinda prayers. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is the refrain. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. And it's available. We can translate it. It's wonderful. So one of the prayers there is Yasya Prabhapa Bhavato Jagatanda Koti, that this effulgence is actually the effulgence of Krishna's body, this Brahma Jyoti. And to think that that's the ultimate is foolish, because we can never be satisfied. We are persons. We are individual spiritual persons encased within the material body. The big mistake we all make, is that we think we are this body. If someone asks who you are, you may give your age, you may give your family, you may give where you were born, But that's all temporary. That's just where your body was born. You're not the body. You're a spirit, soul in the body. Krishna famously says at the beginning of the Gita, of his teachings, 2:13, he begins teaching Arjuna. He said, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara prapdir dhiras tatta namuyati. So he says, it's very nice because we can all kind of get into this example. He says, just as a child grows from babyhood, childhood, adolescence, on and on and on like that. Komadam, Yovanam, and then ultimately Jara, old age. The soul similarly enters into another body after death. The Dhira, the sober person, who's calm and thoughtful, is not bewildered by such a change. Is understanding this is simply going on and on and on. We've lived before and we live again. And this, I like to say, this particular body we're in is a very short chapter in a very long book compared to how long we've been here. Now what is the significance of this? When you think about it, that should change everything about what we should aspire for in this life. Because the basic principle is, this is not a very happy circumstance. Because we forget. The whole thing, Maya, makes us forget. But, being in the womb, taking birth, that's pretty traumatic. Of course, we forgot. Krishna lets us forget. But growing up, and gradually, so much danger. This pandemic years, all of you can remember, right? You're quite a few years older, younger, but you remember it. So what was it about that pandemic that was, everybody in the world, think, this threatens, it's invisible, but it can infect you, and you can be unable to breathe. We had one of our senior members come down with it. This was, I think, 21. Madhusudan, you were here? I don't know if you were here. You remember. And this is a devotee. He's so dear. He joined in 1966, the first year when Prabhupada was there. And he'd been a wonderful devotee ever since. His wife is still there, Kanchan Bala, his daughter, And I was there, and he left his body. But of course, for a devotee who's experienced, he knows, well, if I can just, if they'll help me remember Krishna, then I can go back to Godhead. Because what you think of at the time you leave the body determines your next body. So that's the whole, point of trying to be Krishna conscious all the time. If we can remember Krishna, Krishna says in the next chapter, very important verses near the beginning, he says, Antakale. Antakale means the end time of this body, not the end time for us. We don't die. I made up a little, I like to write little poems, in English, because I love the Sanskrit, but not everyone understands. So every body dies. Means every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. Is it? This is the essence of our movement. So how Krishna says a similar thing. He says in this verse, as the soul passes in this very body, from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly attains another body after death. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Now, in the context of the Gita, he's encouraging Arjuna to be dhira, meaning to be equipoised, even while contemplating that he'll be fighting, and some of his friends and beloved teacher and his grandfather, Bhīṣma, grandfather figure, he's going to be involved in killing them. But it's the higher purpose of Krishna. Nobody dies. Their bodies will change, but because they're killed in Krishna's presence, it'll send them back to Godhead. You see? Krishna is so auspicious. So, but Dharma will be reinstated on this earth. That's the whole idea. This is one of Krishna's. Probably all of you, if you know one word, Yada Yadahi Dharmasya, Glana Bhavati Bharata, Abhyutanama Dharmasya, Tadamana Sajamya. Is that like a traditional thing that children learn when they grow up in it? Very important. So, Krishna's explaining when he comes and why he comes and what he does. Next verse also. Paritranaya sadhunam vinachayata dushkritam dharma sangstapanat sambhavami yuga. You know this one? Yeah. Very good. Scholar. So, whenever and where there's discrepancy in real dharma, at that time I advent myself. Tatmanam sajamiyaham, I appear. What do I do in order to protect the devotees? Paritranaya sadhunam vinachayata dushkritam, to annihilate the miscreants who are ruining life for everybody, and dharma sangstan, and to reestablish dharma. I come again and again. You see, so Krishna, he has a mission. Why does he take the trouble? He's happy enjoying in the spiritual world. What does he have to come here for? This is like the prison house, because we're all his children. We're all his children, and we're in ignorance. So he comes, he speaks the Bhagavad Gita, he empowers others, the great souls and sages, to teach the science to others, because he cares. And he knows that if we can just take up this process of learning from a realized soul like Srila Prabhupada, reading the book, and instilling in our life practices. It doesn't have to be radical, we can keep staying where you are. There's a famous verse, this is spoken by Lord Brahma. It says, Jnani priyasam udapasya namanteva. Don't try to just speculate and try to understand anything. You'll never understand on your own, you see? But rather, stay where you are. Stani stitak. Don't do anything radical, like leaving home or fasting for a month or anything. Don't do that. Just hear from realized souls. Stani is Shruti-gatam, the path of hearing. Tanuvan manobir. And serve those vibrations that you're hearing from the realized Jnana udapasya namanta eva. Jnane priyasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaditam. From the lips of the pure devotee, the realized souls, about Krishna, about God, and serve those vibrations with your body, mind, and soul. In other words, follow the instructions for how to mold your life, and try to understand them with your intelligence, and then try to speak of them. Try to live according to them and to help others to live. This path, you'll be able to conquer the unconquerable Lord, ultimately. How is that? Krishna is only conquered by one thing. Who can say what it is? Yes, loving devotion. He agrees. We're coming every year. The wonderful pastime in the October, November of Damodar month. Krishna is running. We have this temple. Look, there's a little painting. You see that? A little sculpture. He's being bound up. Who can bind Krishna? He agrees to be bound by his mother, because to evoke her love. In other words, a whole pastime. So that's the only way to conquer Krishna, by reawakening our original love for God, and that's what this Bhakti Yoga is all about, and it's taught in the Bhagavad Gita. So back to our verse today. I just saw suddenly our audience has expanded by 300%. So I'm very inspired. Thank you. Usually we have like a half dozen. Now we have a dozen. But this also, that's a camera. There's a YouTube live. They're just seeing also. So anyway, This is a very important chapter, and this is a very important section. So he's saying that I cannot be understood by force, because I'm covered by my Yoga Maya Samavrita. So how can I be understood? So he starts to explain that his omniscience. You know, traditionally, I'm going to run out of time. Traditionally, even in the Western theology, God is understood to have these three basic qualities: omnipotent, complete, you know, super powerful; omnipresent, present everywhere; and omniscience. He knows everything. That's so Krishna has those qualities. How is he omniscient? Well, one way is that he's present in all of our hearts as super soul. See, God is with us, and we can't hear him. We're too much in Maya. You see, he's giving us. When you hear a conscience, it's, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I really shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. That's the super soul speaking. So when we listen to that, you know, then we're leading, you know, moral life. So, but he comes outside, you know, so that we can hear, and he speaks Bhagavad Gita and other books and knowledge, inspires the great sages to write, and he also appears through the great souls like Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee. And even just a few moments or a short period of, you know, of hearing that, it can enter into your heart and change your own life. I had a great opportunity to do that. After I joined almost exactly 50 years ago, actually it's now almost 50, more than 51, but in 1973, March 27th, I had joined a temple. It was in Brooklyn at the time. There was a New York temple, wonderful temple. There were 50, 60 devotees. All the artists who painted these paintings, they all lived there because the books were being produced, you know, very exciting, a lot of kirtan. And 2 weeks after I moved in, Prabhupada arrived. I didn't know that that was like the most wonderful thing. Many devotees, you know, they waited for years to see Prabhupada because they were in a very remote center. But this was one of his most important. He arrived and he spoke, and I got, you know, to hear him personally. And then recordings everywhere. We would walk in the temple, you know, in the ashram, and we hear Prabhupada's recordings. You know, it's just wonderful. So that's really the essence, and that's why Prabhupada was so keen as following his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in producing books, writing books, and distributing books. Because this is a way in which we can have the association of these great souls, even if they've passed on. Because the word is the important thing. And when we read these verses of Krishna, we should know that we're also listening to Krishna personally. He's not limited by time and space. If we hear and we contemplate and we're what is it called? Receptive hearing, you know, ardent hearing, then our life can be really transformed. So I'll read at least one more verse. So he's saying now in 26, he's going to describe his omniscience, which is pretty amazing. So let's see if you can follow along. Page 338. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaścana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. It means me, no one knows in completion. He's so vast. Purport. Here the question of personality and impersonality is clearly stated. If Krishna, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were Maya, or material, as the impersonalists consider him to be, then, like the living entity, he would change his body and forget everything about his past life. Anyone with a material body cannot remember his past life, nor can he foretell his future life, nor can he predict the outcome of his present life. Therefore, he cannot know what is happening in past, present, and future. Unless one is liberated from material contamination, he cannot know past, present, and future. Unlike the ordinary human being, Lord Krishna clearly says that he completely knows what happened in the past, what is happening in the present, and what will happen in the future. In the 4th chapter, we have seen that Lord Krishna remembers instructing Vivasvan, the sun god, millions of years ago. Krishna knows every living entity because he is situated in every living being's heart as the super soul. But despite his presence in every living entity as the super soul and his presence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the less intelligent, even if able to realize the impersonal Brahman, cannot realize Sri Krishna as the Supreme Person. Certainly, the transcendental body of Sri Krishna is not perishable. He is just like the sun, and Maya is like a cloud. In the material world, we can see that there is the sun and that there are clouds and different stars and planets. The clouds may cover all these in the sky temporarily, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. The sun, moon, and stars are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. By his internal potency, he is not manifest to the less intelligent class of men. As is stated in the 3rd verse of this chapter, out of millions and millions of men, some try to become perfect in this human form of life. And out of thousands and thousands of such perfected men, hardly one can understand what Lord Krishna is. Even if one is perfected by realization of impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma, he cannot possibly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, without being in Krishna consciousness. So just one note on Prabhupada's views. He learned English in the beginning of the 20th century in India. And when he says men, he means human beings. And many, he had many lady disciples who were very advanced and who he favored. So that's one thing about his writing technique. Some people are taken aback by that, but he's talking about human beings here. So this, I always thought this verse is this is one of the most amazing things about God, is that he knows everything. With our limited knowledge, what do we really know? We can know a little bit about this and that, and we forget it. And for someone, a living being, to know everything that's going on at the present, everything happened in the past, that's really must be God. That may be the Supreme Person, and that's one of his main qualities. And the thing is, he knows everything, but at the same time, he's our greatest friend. He says at the end of the 5th chapter. I forget how it starts. I memorized all these verses once, but now I'm getting older. The very end of the lesson, and Prabhupada called this the peace formula, how one can be peaceful, and at the same time there can be peace in the world. Bhoktaram yagitapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So that word surit is so important, suridam. Suridam is surit, rid is heart, and su means beautiful heart, great heart. So each of us, every living entity, not even just human beings, Krishna is the well-wisher, the ultimate well-wisher. He doesn't hold a grudge against anybody, even though he kills so many demons, in his pastimes. It's for their own good. He's benefiting the world, and he's benefiting the demons. They're by being killed by Krishna, they get liberation, Because they don't know that advice, they try to avoid it, but it's all for the benefit. So this idea that Krishna is suited, ever well-wisher, he's always wishing us well, and sending his representatives and coming himself in order to try to instill us with the understanding of the real benefits, the most beneficial activity we can perform, which is bhakti yoga. It doesn't mean we have to give up everything else, but we can integrate it into our lives and the principles. And the more that we do that, the more we'll be happy and peaceful in this world, and we'll feel a lessening of anxiety and fear. You see, because once you really live on the platform of soul, and the soul can never die. You see, changing circumstances that may be very difficult, but ultimately, if I can just remember Krishna, then my life will be auspicious, and I'll come out of it. And we've seen it even in some of the people who've passed here. There was another. I've been present. Because I have a nice singing voice or something. They asked me to come and sing Hare Krishna when they know that they're going to pass. So I've seen that, and so many devotees. There was one lady here, she didn't pass here, she grew up here. Her name was Shamali. She was a young girl. I knew her when she was a little baby, and then she grew up and she got married. She lived in Alachua, our farm community. And I had a friend there. I would visit twice a year, and I saw them. And she married the former president here. And so we had a connection, you know, and everything. So I would go, and she was living and everything. And then, tragically, you know, she came down with cancer. And I wasn't able to visit her, but I spoke sometime on the phone, and I would chant some special prayers, and, you know, which ended, because I put them in poetry, May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. This is from the Govinda Lilamrita. And she had friends all over the world calling her, you know, and her spiritual master would spend time with her. He's in Vrindavan. It's the middle of the pandemic. He's not going anywhere, but he's getting on the phone and spending an hour with her, encouraging her, you know. And her father was with her. He's one of the old timers here. His name is Yamunapati. And he explained how, you know, when the final moment came, she was completely at peace. It was like the Vaikuntha airplane came, and she just boarded it and just got on. I used to work in a hospital, and I know many people, I saw many people die, and mostly it's a very, very difficult experience. Mostly they sedate you, you know, because no one knows what's going to happen, and, you know. So it's, this is the greatest value we all have to go through. If we could be Krishna conscious, you can actually meet it with equanimity, because you know, oh, you know, I've served Krishna all my life, I'm going to either going back to Godhead, or maybe one or two more births out of millions and millions, you know, before I get pure. But the life becomes very auspicious. That's the point, by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. So it's time for Aratik in a few minutes, so I'll just give you one more little poem, because I like to end the person. And my friend Bhakta Chad is ready. He's there. So this is one of my favorites. This is about the holy name, you know, the Hare Krishna mantra. It's actually three names, right? Hare is Vakadeva for Hara, which is indicating the goddess of fortune, or in this case, Srimati Radharani. She's the original goddess of fortune. Krishna is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all attractive. And Rama can be understood as another name for Krishna, the supreme reservoir of unlimited bliss, or it can also mean Balaram or even Ramchandra, you know. So, this verse is by one of our great acharyas, Raghunath Das Goswami, and he regards this Hare as Radharani. So he says, an excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the fragrant cooling spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. So that's, if you want any of the poem, I have a whole little booklet of them in PDF format. I don't sell it, I give it away. You just have to write to me. Remember this name, Dravida108@gmail. And I'll send you all my poetry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And we will have the Artik, you see the beautiful deities, and afterward, free prasadam for everybody. So please stay for a little bit more. And we'll adjourn right now, and we'll convene again on Monday. If you're in town, you're welcome to come. Hare Krishna. I've been giving this class since